There aren't black holes. There's no spot where energy goes in and never comes back out. There's no place in the universe where there is an imbalance where something gets contracted and never comes out. Aliens, weird human sacrifices, black holes, and earthquakes. You might not believe us when we say that CERN's scientific legacy has nothing to do with its actual achievements. Back in 2012, the organization shocked the scientific community by rewriting the very rules of quantum physics. Soon enough, CERN lost a major chunk of its reputation to warning signs that personalities like Terrence couldn't ignore. Why is the organization so secretive about its operations? Everything boils down to science that doesn't help humanity but dooms it. Join us as we explore the evil activity happening at CERN that no one can explain. Why is CERN so unpopular for particle and quantum physicists? CERN, or the European Organization for Nuclear Research, is nothing short of a scientific wonder thanks to its world's largest and highest energy particle collider, the LHC, or the Large Hadron Collider. For years, quantum scientists have grappled with questions about particles such as neutrons, dark matter, and antimatter. Between 1998 and 2008, CERN collaborated with more than 10,000 scientists, hundreds of research universities, and laboratories from at least 100 countries to bring the LHC to light. And when the particle collider was finally operational, CERN's reputation began to take a nosedive. The LHC lies in a tunnel as deep as 1,275 meters or 574 feet beneath the France-Switzerland border near Geneva. While it largely exists out of human sight, it has been shockingly dubbed as the device for the Earth's demise. Yep, believe it or not, one of the biggest scientific wonders on Earth is considered to be potentially catastrophic for human civilization. To be fair, CERN wasn't always this controversial. It was a scientific research facility with world-class machinery in the heart of Europe. It is the very place where the World Wide Web was developed by an English computer scientist, Tim Berners-Lee, in 1989 and was open to the public in 1991. Tim wanted to create a universal linked information system for scientists to stay connected. Today, we can't even imagine our lives without the little www we insert before accessing anything of use, from education to online shopping sprees. But then something about CERN changed. Their focus on atom splitting and potentially finding new particles drove them over the edge, at least in the eyes of LHC opponents. We will talk about why scientists are so terrified of the particle collider in a second. Before that, let us talk about why CERN has become a hub of major conspiracy theories. While a lot of the stories about CERN's sinister activities sound outrageous, they are not completely baseless. You know what they say, where there's smoke, there's a fire. The story of CERN's descent into madness comes from the LHC, but not for the purpose you think. Before it could even make an excellent discovery of the God particle in 2012, it was rumored that scientists at CERN were using the LHC for something bigger and wilder. Scientists used the LHC to test any theoretical notions in particle physics, particularly those that seem deviant to the Standard Model in physics. The Standard Model explains a super useful part of particle physics, but as a discipline, it is still incomplete. For instance, the Standard Model explains 3 of the 4 known fundamental forces, weak and strong interactions and electromagnetism. So far, it doesn't explain gravity. Practically, we also use the Standard Model to classify all of the known elementary particles. Scientists theorize that there are other particles we haven't discovered so far, and that's exactly where the LHC comes in. There are hundreds of important unanswered questions about particle physics. Now, you might have heard scientists throwing around the words dark matter and dark energy. Many scientists are also still researching why we have more matter in the universe than antimatter. These questions have haunted scientists for decades, and they're hoping for the LHC to find them conclusive answers, no matter what the cost. So why do you think these questions are important? Well, if we are able to harness the mystery of dark matter and dark energy, we can take over the universe. You see, dark matter makes most of the galaxy clusters in the universe. Galaxies are organized on a grand scale the way they are because of dark matter. For years, scientists have theorized that we can use dark matter as the key ingredient for a revolutionary propulsion technology that can allow humans to reach speeds close to the speed of light. You heard that right. If we are able to acquire dark matter as fuel, then we are looking at some daunting possibilities becoming real opportunities, including travel to parallel universes and exploring inches of the universe that are dark and unknown. At the same time, dark energy is the very mysterious force that is enabling the expansion of our universe. Hundreds and hundreds of years of scientific discovery haven't been able to explain that enigma. In fact, even the LHC hasn't touched base with this particular matter, at least not anything that we know of. All we know is that the LHC can reproduce the conditions that existed within a billionth of a second of the Big Bang. It is the only high-functioning equipment we have to relive our history from its very conception. If we are to study why a dark mysterious force is enlarging our universe every second, what's a better way to go back in time and rediscover the very universe right after its birth? This is precisely what makes the LHC the apex of our scientific dreams, as well as a complete terrifying and potentially catastrophic nightmare. Opponents of the LHC have chastised CERN for being adamant about finding discrepancies in the standard model by risking our planet's survival. There are scientific reports that theorize that the LHC might just create a black hole. And if there's anything that Interstellar has taught us, we shouldn't really be messing with those energy-sucking, confusing space villains. But the questions on dark energy, dark matter, and antimatter bring us to the very issue that has taken a hit on CERN's reputation. There's speculation that CERN scientists are trying to open up a portal to another dimension using the LHC. And as we said earlier, where there's smoke, there's a fire. A ritual or a hoax? To be fair, the general public might not have taken a keen interest in the proton smasher if it weren't for the bizarre 2016 controversy that left the scientific community in sheer disbelief. Before the 2016 incident, there were several rumors about CERN being super secretive. No matter what went down in the organization, its leadership would only resort to internal investigations or closed inquiries. While CERN has shared technical reports of certain incidents that have happened in the LHC, including a dangerous helium leak, it hasn't been forthcoming with a lot of details. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. A lot of its projects and publications lack severe peer review mechanisms, which are prerequisites for any research to make its way into the world. But since its conception, CERN has seen itself above the rules. This is why the world was shocked when a confusing and downright frightening video from CERN's Geneva campus was allegedly leaked onto the internet. The video had nothing to do with the so-called scientific work at the organization. Rather, we saw scientists in black robes ready to indulge in a ritualistic sacrifice of a woman. The scientists were gathered around the main complex of the Geneva campus, the very home of the LHC, where they prepared for a mock occult sacrifice. According to The Guardian, the video includes the staged stabbing of a woman. It is filmed from the perspective of a secret viewer watching from a window above, who, as the ceremony reaches its climax, lets out a string of expletives and flees with the camera still running. In the video, we could also see that the sacrifice was taking place in front of the statue of a Hindu deity, Shiva, which is on display in CERN's main complex. For a hot minute, anyone who watched the video assumed that it was another well-edited footage that had gone viral. But the truth was even more terrifying. CERN was able to confirm that the video was indeed real and it had been recorded in its main complex by the organization's scientists. However, the video was a mere prank only to mock the very faction that thinks CERN is a satanic cult trying to open a portal to hell or some equally terrifying dimension. Nothing about CERN's statements made sense. While the video seems exaggerated, we couldn't conclusively tell if it wasn't staged or not. And how come scientists were staging a sacrifice in a place that struggles to find any scientific legitimacy among the general public? Where were CERN security forces when scientists were staging this weird prank? Well, once again, CERN had gone radio silent on news reporters and journalists asking these very important questions. It was much later when the organization spokesperson issued a statement saying CERN welcomes thousands of scientific users from all over the world every year, and sometimes some of them let their humor go too far. This is what happened on this occasion. However, CERN didn't release the names of the scientists who were involved in this horrible gimmick. The spokesperson clarified that they would conduct an internal investigation on the matter but never really bothered to inform the public of their findings. Sounds bizarre, right? For years, CERN has tried to negate rumors of any illicit activities happening at the LHC, but the organization keeps tripping on its feet. We have no way to conclusively see if the ritual sacrifice was real or not, but it was clear that CERN might not be able to recover from this snafu. And well, it didn't. You see, earlier in the year, CERN was also blamed for a string of earthquakes in Italy in 2016 that took more than 200 lives. By November of the same year, there were multiple theories about CERN's controversial experiment called Awake causing the earthquakes. The Awake experiment was designed to explore the use of plasma to accelerate particles to high energies over a distance. As part of the experiment, Awake had sent plasma from the LHC to the Gran Sasso Nuclear Physics Laboratory 250 miles away in Italy. The first beams of plasma were fired in June, and in the next month or so, Italy started to experience deadly seismic activity, particularly in the areas directly in line with the LHC. Perhaps the timing of Awake and the string of earthquakes in Italy was just a major coincidence, but it would be foolish to deny that opponents of the LHC were able to rile up anti-CERN sentiments in the public. It was speculated that CERN is perhaps trying to create a direct line of communication with other planets in the solar system, and in the process, it is jeopardizing the safety of our home planet. Many scientific blogs started to speculate that the firing of plasma is messing with Earth and its natural movement of tectonic plates. So far, many scientists have yet to scientifically prove this causation, but perhaps CERN's place in public perception isn't about the science itself, but the narrative. Soon after the sad events in Italy had happened, the ritualistic sacrifice happening at CERN had gone viral. While the organization's scientists were working very hard to clear their name from the earthquake allegations, they couldn't deal with another equally bizarre PR disaster. The crux of the issue is about the legitimacy of CERN. The last time CERN did something incredible for the scientific community was in 2012 when it discovered the God particle. Well, the discovery is a major part after all. The LHC's biggest and only achievement didn't come because of an incredible equation, rather, it was a mere statistical burp that made the outstanding discovery. Since then, the LHC has gone radio silent on us. A pause in discoveries is part of the reason why not all scientists see eye to eye with CERN. This is because of the organization's slowed development. More than a decade ago, particle physics was the newest hype in the scientific world. Its biggest proponent was CERN, which was aiming to rewrite particle physics by making shocking discoveries. Their yearning to find a new particle goes back to 1964 when a physicist named Peter Higgs, as well as his 5 teammates, proposed the Higgs mechanism. The theory was based on a fundamental particle physics question of how certain particles acquire mass. Their idea was if particles at very high energy are massless, how do they gain mass at lower energy levels? There were countless experiments that were invested in the question. No scientist was really able to prove anything. That's when Higgs proposed that if the fundamentals about a particle's mass and their correlation to the energy were correct, then a particle known as a scalar boson should also exist. This particle would exist in the Higgs field and would give mass to other fundamental particles such as quarks and electrons. To prove that the Higgs field really exists, the discovery of the particle was of the utmost importance. For 45 years, scientists tried to find it but failed. That's when CERN did something incredible. On the 4th of July, 2012, more than 6,000 researchers working with the LHC announced that they had discovered the Higgs boson, and in a second, particle physics changed forever. After years of struggle, scientists finally had something to explain how other fundamental particles get their mass, and the opponents of Higgs's theory were proven wrong. After a massive fleeting defeat, the discovery was so important that even the Nobel had to acknowledge it. All in all, fulfilling a 45-year-old prediction was not an easy feat, although the discovery itself was a blip, or rather a beautiful mistake. At the end of the day, something incredible had happened. CERN had finally fulfilled a part of its job. Then came a long, sad, and almost devastating hangover. After discovering the God particle, CERN went quiet on the scientific community. Sure, it had other scientific contributions, but nothing major came out of the Large Hadron Collider. When the LHC started to take data in 2010, some of the scientists had already feared that this massive investment might only just yield a single discovery of the God particle. And then their terrifying prediction came true. The nightmare scenario has landed CERN in hot water. Even its biggest supporters feel disappointed because the billion-dollar organization had once shown the potential for something as big as supersymmetry, and CERN didn't even come close. That was when people questioned CERN's usability in the field of science. How do we allow a facility to potentially cause earthquakes or allegedly carry out weird occult practices when it is actually failing at its job? Not all scientists have the same view, though. Many believe that the LHC is still capable of stumbling upon a discovery, but it is most likely going to be another statistical burp. You see, the LHC breaks up particles over particles, so simply by banking on probability, something unique might just happen. In 2018, the particle collider had to be shut down for some major updates. It began its operations in 2022, and there was some glimmer of hope there. After 3 years of upgrades, the LHC is now progressing for the third of the 5 planned runs. This means that there is a chance that new particles could be discovered as the LHC is carrying out billions of proton-proton collisions every second. Now, according to science.org, during the past 3 years, scientists have upgraded the detectors and reworked the lower energy accelerators that feed the collider. The LHC should now run at a more constant collision rate, effectively increasing the flow of data by as much as 50%, says Mike Lamont, director of accelerators and beams at CERN. Many scientists believe that we should wait for the upgrades to do their magic. The new equipment is capable of running for another 16 years. Technically speaking, the upgrades will make sure that the LHC collects 16 times as much data as it already has, and who knows, within those heaps and heaps of particle data, scientists might find another discrepancy in the standard model, or they might as well just perfect the theory. But that's part of the problem too. If you haven't noticed so far, the LHC is entirely dependent on probability, likelihood, and chance. Well, collisions are definitely a matter of luck too. Yet at the same time, it is hard to put anything definitive under the LHC's name, especially when the updates require some really hefty investments. This is why Marvin Marshak, a physicist who studies neutrons at the University of Minnesota Twin Cities, says that scientists at CERN are perhaps too optimistic about their chances. Even previously, it took the LHC years to stumble upon the God particle, and that becomes an issue when CERN is actively pursuing the creation of an even more powerful particle collider. In the words of Marvin Marshak, they are facing the desert, and they don't know how wide it is. Marvin might have summarized CERN's problem in one short sentence, but of course, the problem is much deeper than that. Even the biggest supporters of CERN have started to lose faith in its mission and the LHC altogether. Everything boils down to money. The reason why CERN is a major scientific collaborative organization is because world governments fuel money into it. In the 1990s, nuclear physics was the hottest topic on Earth. The world wasn't just grappling with questions of nuclear ethics, but more and more research on harnessing atomic power was equally being pursued. CERN came at the right time, and funneling money into the mega project was a no-brainer. But now it has been more than a decade since the discovery of the God particle. How does CERN convince world governments to give them more money to build a bigger and more expensive collider? That's a critical question that even the organization is unable to answer. While thousands of physicist workers at the LHC are happy that the collider is up and running, the world outside is getting more and more bleak. Over the years, CERN has become an indisputable face of particle physics. When CERN fails to churn up anything useful, it is not the organization's failure. People see it as a limitation of the field of particle physics too. In a way, the writing is on the wall for collider physics. Scientists at CERN are desperately trying to save the LHC as well as the scientific field itself. The task is extremely daunting, especially when their work is viewed with great skepticism. We've already talked about how CERN is habitual of getting away with risky experiments without ever paying heed to the consequences, but those consequences aren't just any consequences. We are talking about the perishing of our very own planet. What you don't know is that the LHC just doesn't break protons, it is also creating a surge of energy that can suck you in, quite literally. We are talking about the mysterious, dark, enigmatic cosmic objects that are formed when massive stars collapse on their own. These bodies have such intense gravity that even light can't escape it. You might have guessed it, we are talking about black holes. Yep, other than causing earthquakes, opening up portals to new worlds, and offering sacrifices, the LHC has been accused of forming black holes on our very planet. The science of it is complicated, incomplete, and very sophisticated, but the fear is very much alive. This is why CERN, despite being a promising project, keeps fumbling. And to understand what's really happening at the particle collider, we have to go back into the century when Einstein was still alive. Is CERN creating black holes? Here's the thing, if you don't get too close to a black hole, nothing really will happen. Harm from a black hole only occurs when you're within its spherical boundary known as the event horizon. Once you're within that boundary, then of course the black hole would pull you inward inexorably. The bigger the black hole, the bigger the event horizon. So let's put it this way, if you could make a black hole in a lab that weighed only half a kilogram, it would have an event horizon 1 trillion times smaller than a proton. That's pretty harmless then. To be fair, when we talk about the LHC creating a black hole, we are not talking about a powerful, soul-sucking event horizon that will lure an object in. However, some scientists increasingly disagree about the small extent of the black hole creation that the LHC might be indulging in. Now the next important question is, how do these fears about CERN creating a black hole come about? The answer lies within Einstein's special theory of relativity, where mass and energy are interchangeable. So if you go back in time and think about the super famous equation from science class, as in E is equal to mc²2, the notion is the speed of light. According to Scientific American, because the super collider slams together protons at unbelievable velocities nearing the speed of light and energies, many strange and exotic particles can pop out, potentially including a black hole. Now one theory is that creating a black hole, even with a tiny, insignificant, powerless event horizon, would require a massive energy surge that the LHC is simply incapable of producing. The collider would have to create 1 billion times more energy than what it creates today, even after some hefty upgrades. Theoretically, even if the particle collider is magically able to produce an energy surge that rivals the cosmic object in space, it won't hold up. The object would quickly lose energy and disappear before your eyes in less than a millisecond. This is exactly what CERN has been putting out as its official statement when the scientists first recorded their fears about creating a black hole on Earth. But these fears, no matter how irrational they seem, have been around way before the facility had started its operation. In 2008, a few opponents of the LHC had hypothesized that if the fabric of spacetime had the extra mysterious dimensions that string theory proposes, then there's a way for the particle collider to create a dangerous amalgamation of quantum physics and gravity. At least theoretically, it's not a secret what that lethal combination would create. Right before the eyes of CERN scientists, there would be a black hole. According to Scientific American, that becomes a possibility because in our four-dimensional universe, with 3 dimensions of space and 1 of time, gravity is too weak to pound matter into a black hole. Now, if the other dimensions exist as string theory hypothesizes, our gravity would be much stronger than it is now, and that gravity could be leaking into these strange other dimensions, which can theoretically create a black hole in a particle collider. The only advantage of this entire diabolical discovery would be to get a unique insight into gravity, which we have never had. If the LHC does encounter a black hole, it would perhaps be the most surprising physics we will ever see in the world, and it barely scratches the surface. So far, the LHC hasn't reported any incident relating to black holes. However, fear has crept into the media as well as conspiracy theories. A German chemist even filed a lawsuit against CERN scientists in the European Court of Human Rights, citing a potential threat to humanity. The investigation didn't reveal anything threatening about the LHC, but the fears have not subsided. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.